One of the most important questions we need to ask ourselves is, what happened in the moment of our death? Will life continue, or it is just the end? How can we build a strategy for our life if we don't know what we are doing here? Should we live our life thinking in ourselves, or should we live our life thinking in the others? Those that think that everything will end in the moment of death will have a higher probability of being a materialistic person. In the other hand, for those that think life will continue, there is a higher probability of being a spiritual person. Today, we will see how can the fundamental principles of science help us answering this question. Let's start with one of the most important principles in chemistry that helps the scientist to explain the result of the chemical reactions, the law of conservation of mass, also known as the Lavoisier law, states that in an isolated system, the mass of the system must remain constant over time. The mass can neither be created nor destroyed, only rearranged. In a very similar way, the law of conservation of energy assumes that, in an isolated system, the energy of the system must remain constant over time. The energy can neither be created nor destroyed. This is one of the most important principles of thermodynamics that allow the science to explain how the energy is transformed. From kinetic energy to thermic energy, the energy can have very different types, but the overall energy within the system stays the same. The law of conservation of energy is a fundamental principle in physics and is essential for understanding various natural phenomena and engineering applications. Now we can ask ourselves if life is a form of mass or a form of energy. How does life fit under these fundamental principles? We can easily conclude the law of conservation of life. The law of conservation of life assumes that in an isolated system, the life must remain constant over time. Life can neither be created nor destroyed, only rearranged. This principle changes completely our perspective about our life, giving a meaningful sense to the question why we are here. Assuming this principle, the next questions would be, if the life in a system remains constant over time, from where it comes life? Where was our life before we born? To answer this question, let's see the position of the most important religions. The most important religions support the idea of a creator, and if we consider this assumption, the answer would be very simple. Our life would come from the universal deposit of all the lives on earth, our creator. Now, is it realistic to consider the existence of a creator? Interesting fact is that the most important religions assume the existence of a creator. The Abrahamic religions, accounting for nearly 54% of the global population, assumes the existence of a creator. And if we sum Hinduism, the total of religions that consider the existence of a creator, accounts for more than 2/3 of the global population. It is a considerable consensus. Exploring the question of the existence of a creator from other perspectives. Let's reflect about how complex is the world we live in. How many conditions need to be met to be possible the existence of life in a certain moment? How many variables need to have a value within a specific and limited range to be possible the existence of life on Earth? We can think about external conditions such as the air we breathe, the right percentage of oxygen. If the air has too much carbon dioxide, we could not live. If the air has too much hydrogen, we could not live. And we could continue asking the same question about other chemical elements. And it is not just the air that we breathe. There is a huge number of other topics where variables need to be within a limited range to be possible life on Earth. We can think about the temperature, we can think about the radiation we are exposed, and the availability of water. We can think about internal body factors such as the quantity of oxygen in our blood, the right quantity of vitamins, the right quantity of potassium, zinc, and magnesium, the quantity of insulin our body produces, and thousands of variables that can be measured in a medical examination. It is amazing the number of variables that need to be within a limited range to be possible life on Earth. Let's do an exercise using the basics of probabilities. The probability of drawing one blue ball from a bag with 9 red balls and one blue ball is 10%. But if we want 2 blue balls from a bag with 8 red balls and 2 blue balls, without returning the ball into the bag, the probability is just 2.2%. And the probability of drawing 2 blue balls from a bag with 98 red balls and 2 blue balls is just 0.02%, also assuming not returning the ball to the bag. Conclusion: with increasing complexity of requirements, the probability of a desired event tends to 0 in an aleatory system. Based on this logic, and considering the huge number of variables that need to meet specific conditions, the probability of existing life in a specific moment in time is almost 0 if the system was considered aleatory. And if these conditions need to be maintained for millions of years, it would be almost impossible to exist life in an aleatory system. Only the existence of a creator that is taking care of these variables can explain the fact that there was life on Earth for millions of years. Do you know that thousands of persons from different places, in different moment in time, different religious beliefs, testimony the same sequence of events? They shared their near-death experiences, and their message is the same. Life continues. Often, persons that had this experience change completely their behavior and their speech. They become a completely different person. A complete transformation is usually seen. Life on Earth has a new meaning for them. To finalize, the 3 most important messages for today are the law of conservation of mass, the law of conservation of energy, and the law of conservation of life are 3 important principles to explain the environment around us on Earth. Only the existence of a creator that is taking care of the variables that support life on Earth can explain the fact that there is still life on Earth after all these years. Thousands of persons already shared their experiences. Life continues. Please think about these messages. This might be one of the most important things each human being needs to understand. Your eternal happiness may depend on this understanding.